Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode. In today's episode, I want to talk about perhaps the most important, one of the most important ideas that human beings can look at. And why is there a significance of defending the lovers of the realm, and what is rare about this? Okay. I want to start from a universal picture. Usually when a person speaks, you start from the small or go to the big, or you start from the big and go to the small. I want to speak about how when we look at the universe, the romance, the ideas of the realm change. You know, right now we're living as human beings in space, and it's our activity in space that is becoming our life. That means we are a phenomena, and as this phenomena is aware of itself, the meaning of its life occurs. I tend to say in these talks that there is there were 4 phases of evolution: an unconscious world, where it was just the world here, there was nothing, and then an unconscious self. This is a body emerging on the planet. That means it was just the planets alone. Then suddenly creatures emerged, kind of like how Alan Watts says a tree apples and the planet people. So suddenly the body emerged, but there was still not the mind or an awareness to the mind. So the first phase of evolution, an unconscious world. The second phase, an unconscious self. I consider this to be the actual objective evolution. And then from the unconscious self, currently we're in the third phase of evolution, which I would say the conscious self. This is where after we moved as an object for a very long time, we became a subject to ourselves. And this is one of the coolest and greatest mysteries of being a human being. Now, in being a subject, this is where the idea of love is very key. You see, if you ask what are the reasons for a human to stay human, and it is participation in what human beings have created before, but also what else they can create together. And when it comes to creation, you can say 2 people can know something, they can go into a moment and they can create something knowingly, or they can be drawn in unknown ways. And the concept of love is not just limited between people. That means a person can love an object, a person can love a subject, and when you love both of them, that's when you love people, you know. Now the concept of love is very deep, I would say, because some people speak about it, that it's something you build up to, that you can't love anything at first, you know. But then there's another view where it's like an antenna and it's like a signal, and that nobody can, even if you see a lot of movies on love, you can't just go love. It has to come on its own. It has to be there in the nature of the being, you know, as if it's a signal that was raised, you know, that was received. So the idea of how much we can control love and how much we can't control it, and the significance of it. Because as creatures on this planet, what can we do? We can move as objects, or we can move as an object and as a subject. You know, we can move subjects around, or we can move objects around. And the concept of love is a superior subject because it requires selflessness. That means a person who loves something in accordance, it's like, how can you see it? Okay, let me give you an example. What's a good example? Okay, let's say two people see pictures of each other. They don't see each other actually, and they fall in love with the picture, and then they realize the picture was the wrong picture. That means it was somebody else's picture, for example, you know. And so the love was self-created, right? So a self-created love, something that is just the person, it's only to the preference of the person's inner realms, or something that is actually in the outer realms, for example. And love is not just in the partner angle I'm talking about when I say it is in the sense of anything we care for its force of existence, I would say. So these objects that became subjects throughout their lives, let us say, find moments where they notice something more significant than how they are being an object and how they are just being a subject, and what else the moment can have, you know. So the unknown is what draws in the human being to the new, to the rare. And I saw it this way, you know, when you look at history, I didn't know this, but there is too many epics of written tales of different lovers in history. You know, Romeo and Juliet are just the popular one. Different cultures have had their own romance legends. And in it you see as if dimensions, like I'll tell you a very interesting story. There were these two lovers known as Layli and Majnun in the East. And of course, it's just like Romeo and Juliet, even though there's a tragedy, it's a beautiful story where there's this man named Majnun, and he falls in love with this girl as if he is something. There's something like his soul is moving him. It's not even logical to him. But the story is from way back, I don't know how many centuries ago. But what happens is Majnun is in love with like the soul of this other person, Layli. And what happens is Layli is this girl, she's very honorable and she honors her father, so she decides to marry who her father wants. And Majnun, who has been endlessly, hopelessly trying, even divine poetry is inspired through him to try to get closer to Layli. And so when Layli decides to honor her father instead of Majnun gets heartbroken and he leaves the town because he sees that she has decided. Do you see? And so Majnun leaves. Majnun is the guy, and Majnun, he leaves, and years pass, and I think he lives a hermit's life, something secluded, where it was as if he had to sacrifice the biggest thing that was drawing him to something in this life, because that thing wanted something else. Do you know what I mean? That means it was as if it's like a moth going towards a candle, but seeing that the candle isn't staying there, the candle is going somewhere else. Do you see? So the moth needs to leave and find another light or whatnot. But what happens is Majnun, years after, and there's so many epic stories of these two lovers. But what happens is Layli, years pass and Layli passes away, and Majnun, out of his kind of like seclusion, and he's gone into like this hermit's life, he suddenly comes back to the town and he sees the grave he sees the grave of Lady. He sees that she has left the realm. And there is such a, this is really heavy, sorry guys, I'm stalling here, but it's making me slightly emotional because Majnun, he goes there, he sees Lady's grave, and then he hangs around there and he carves something on the wall. What was the exact sentence? He says something like, even though Layli is gone, the love he has for her is like still in the walls of the graves or something, walls of the graveyard. I don't remember the exact saying, but it was like something that, it was something that the eyes of the soul had seen. That means it's like, I mean, this is very traditional where they see the body, mind, soul, and it's like when bodies are drawn together, they call that lust. When minds are drawn together, they call that, let's say, blind love. And when souls are drawn together, that is true love, right? Because then it is on somebody once said this, it's like one moment, two moments become one moment. Just like how we have two eyes that see the same, it's like a union is access to more sight, to a clear sight. So that's like an example, you know. Other stories of Layli and Majnun is like Majnun is sitting at a table and Layli is there with his friends and with her friends and whatnot. And what happens is Majnun was this hopeless kind of romantically in love. You know, divinely in love with Layli. It's like Layli comes and in the middle of everyone gets his plate and breaks his plate in front of everyone. And all of Majnun's friends are like, oh my god, you know, Majnun's heart is crushed right now, you know. And so Layli leaves and then Majnun is super happy. Majnun is celebrating. And his friends are like, why? You know, why are you happy? She just destroyed your plate, you know. And Majnun looks around and says, she destroyed my plate. And then, I don't know, another story is that there are a bunch of people praying and Majnun is running after Layli, and when he's running, he runs over the prayer mats of these people praying. And the people praying suddenly get angry and they hold him and they're like, what are you doing? Don't you see we're praying here? You know, and Majnun says, why are you guys praying? And they're like, it's for our love of God and love of truth. And Majnun says, this is not the real love, what you guys have found. You know, this is not love. And then he runs being lost in the passion of the world. You know, so there's many stories. You know, how many human beings have lived on this planet? You know, how many hidden romances that never even saw the light of day, you know, in narrative form. You know, people may think that ideas can be classified to groups, but really what it is that each idea, each ideology, any sort of belief harbors within it an image. And really what's going on is that what we consider knowledge is film transference. And based on who you are and how you function as a human being, you generate that film. That means when somebody reads a book very fast, it becomes a film. When you see images, you know, frames, 24 frames per second, you know, you see the film of life. Suddenly something where in a static way, yeah, easy, let's throw rocks at this person, you know, suddenly in another angle is completely different, you know. One can realize they're throwing rocks at a mountain. So anyways, what I'm trying to say is that okay, sorry guys, there was something wrong with the streaming software. So I actually don't know how much the audience heard. Hold on, let's check this. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that okay, so I checked how far of it was recorded. Alright, to continue. So guys, pretty much I was giving an example of certain historic lovers. I was trying to tell you their stories. Let me see if I can find their pictures for you. There we go. Okay guys, sorry for the pause. I found the picture. Okay, I didn't realize there's lyrics in this song. Alright, this works. Okay, just to speed this up, so this is the picture of Layli and Majnun. Pretty much it's like you can say it's an love is a advanced state of communication, you know. The more unknown it is, the more potential novelty, potential advancement, you know. So my whole point was that after a very long time, an object has become a subject to itself. This subject looks at the world, and it's like two eyes to see the same. We are an object and subject being one moment. As an object, really, objects can't love each other. An object is, that's its mere quality. But what it is that the story of love applies to is not only how a person is a subject to themselves, but how they are a subject to the other. You know, it's a and you know, honestly, it gets really surreal when you really look at it. You know, the more like, that's the thing about science, that it bulldozes over beauty sometimes, the scientific method, because it breaks. That means put divide and conquer as a strategy. It's like pretty much that's the technique. You know, it's, but if our ancestors didn't love each other, we wouldn't be around. If there wasn't some sort of force causing, pulling human beings together to build something, to create something. And we can even see it as if we are living in a civilization of lovers. But let me tell you what kind of lovers. So there are some people who love themselves. And then there are some people who love others. They don't even know about themselves. And then there's some people who love the world, which encompasses all that is. That means it's like the easiest thing. It's like when the person wants to, even this is the mentality I have. It's as if it doesn't matter what the person works for, you're working for your world. You're working for your realm. It's something that's happening, that has value. It's rare. You know, it's like what's so rare about how would I say it? Like, we are the only species that has ideological romance. You know, we don't see, even though other species, they mate. You know, there is forces. For example, there's a reason peacocks like show off their feathers, you know. But I would say it's as if like there's a past component, there's a present component, and then there's a future component. Sometimes when you love the future, you cannot love the past. Sometimes when you love the past, whatever happens in the future, you'll be like, no, I love the ideological system of my past. It's like it's, you know, so it's really worship. Because everything on this planet is the subjective attention. It's the attention of a subject inside an object. That means if right now I consider that I'm just this biological body, everything I am communicating, everything I am receiving from the world, and even where my expressions coming from, this reception expression, it's all inside the brain. That means right now it's not a named subject speaking to you, it is a neurological phenomenon. That means it's as if we can even say that the more we see ourselves dehumanized, the less communication has a value. That means it's as if the person's like, okay, where can I experience love? You know, and the person's like, okay, before I was born, I have no clue what happened there. You know? It's like in the afterlife, it's like there's judgment gonna be there. Who knows what's gonna happen? You know, let's say you have this mentality, because in the more you go back in history, the more you see that people needed a world story somehow. And I can't tell you, it's strange, even though if we wanted to, for example, take the idea of religion out of culture, in some sense its roots are ingrained in history, so it can never be forgotten. So it's a strange kind of fact of our living, that it's like our history was sculpted by various ideological systems, and not all those ideological systems are accurate. That means before there was science, there was philosophy. Many people don't know this. Science is a branch of philosophy. Science, you know what it is? It's like when a philosopher found mathematics, it became a scientist. Let me tell you, because before that everything was theory. But how do we make sure that something is not just theoretical? Even though mathematics is like a language, you can even argue about its simulated nature. But ultimately what it is that before we could test anything, we were still moving. That means before we were conscious, intelligence was around. I thought about, like, look at how many things we teach the human being in current society in 2020 to survive. And then you go back to the time of the caveman and they're like, how did these guys figure it out? How did our primitive ancestors that had no clue, none of the ideological sophistication we have now, how did they figure it out? And you see that before they were conscious of their individualism, they were actually instinctual. So what it means is that the body's life, it's as if the body started moving, and the body moved so long, oblivious to itself, I find. That, you know what it is? This is why I'm saying we can never measure evolution, And, let me tell you why. Because there could be gaps in the middle where a creature went to evolve, but it couldn't go back to the same phase. I'll give you an example. Imagine it took 1,000,000 years for the ape to try to stand up. The more primitive version of our ancestors, it's as if they were four-limbed, right? And then they tried to stand up, but imagine they would fail. Imagine for 1,000,000 years they failed to stand up. How would we count that in the current way of analysis of how we're considering evolution is? Do you see? So there could be pauses in time. There could be giant chunks of evolution where nothing evolved. It couldn't get past the barrier. So that means the accuracy of our explanation of reality, you think is something, we are such small creatures, we can never have total certainty. So technically we are much better off as a species if we treat the idea of our world as theory. And this is strange, right? Because we say we're in reality and we want theories. Right? And that's what, it's hilarious. It's like you see the quantum physicists go slap the theist in the face, and then, it's like, how dare you speak about imagination in the presence of my, evidence, And so, then the quantum physicist goes to work the next day, sits at a table, it's like, let me see how else I can theorize how the physics is being physical. So you see, we all use a theoretical dimension. It's a linguistic. We are inside two rooms: a language room, and then a room that has nothing to do with the human idea. So the human idea has a value in its own sphere. You know what it is? It's like a point of intelligence finding itself on a planet, having no clue what to do, and then instantly giving itself a self. You see, you can say the wisdom of space that it never was a self. The wisdom of the self that it was never in space. You see that it's like, what options do we have? It's like, when are we going to get tired as a species of this whack-a-mole we play because of the wheel of duality endlessly spinning? Do you know, it was never about reality. That word is imagined. Dear listeners, what we call reality is an act of imagination, but it's an act of imagination that is static. It doesn't change. That means when I look at this cup, I say cup. The idea of cup is connected. It's literally wielded to the object now. But there was a moment where this object had no name, and somebody was like, what am I going to call this? And so when we forget that really we could never forget. Energy returns to its royalty. There's a royalty to existence, and then there's a royalty to experience and how it simulates selfhood, then culture, then the global efforts, then whatever you want until the end of time. You know, it's as if the only thing that's going on, and I think the biggest reason many people in the inner realms they suffer, it's as if like when one looks at suffering even, you gotta ask yourself, how much of my suffering, and here I'm using Mr. Within's inner and outer realmism, but I'll tell you what it is in how much of the suffering is from the outer realms, how much of the suffering are from the inner realms. For example, I'm a person who smokes. If there's something, like I ask myself, okay, is the suffering because of the outer realms or is it because of the inner realms, right? If it's something where there is sensation involved, biological sensation, as if every cell of your being is like and your army, and your intelligence is the general, right? So it's as if the cells, if the army is giving reports of something, then the person realizes, okay, so it's like in the outer realms. That means the solution has to be in objects changing. But when it comes to something where the person, let's say, goes in one room and they're sad even though the room is happy, and then they even go on a vacation, they're still sad and they're still sad and they're still sad, in all these different moments they go, then that problem has nothing to do with objects changing. You can give the person like endless things, it still won't help them. Do you know? It's that a subject needs to change, right? And the issue and the biggest thing, I think this is really honestly what I'm trying to do is in trying to create a backup system for secular society, in not exiling itself from how it has no other choice but to use the imagination. It's the superiorization of it. You know what it is? We think imagination is not real, but it's like every invention of the human being that is real has come from there. So it's like the potential of reality, we call it imagination. Now imagine somebody says, I look at the sky and it's endless. Somebody's like, how dare you? How do you know it's endless? You know, you know, and so we can always, till the end of time, doubt everything into nullification. I am telling you, you can break the house of cards any moment. It's just about how much you care, you know. Because I'm telling you, I have seen the shaky foundations, how many in so many ideological systems that are acting like top dogs right now. That means it's as if it's like the world should be happy right now. You know, I would say that there isn't too many philosophers around. Because if there were philosophers, you can't let when the light is in the room, it sees what's going on. You know, you cannot hide the fact that it is unknown first, then known. So no glorification of knowledge, regardless of if you attach this ideological sticker to something you see or something you, in some sense, in your inner realms you see. When it's like someone can say, okay, imagine like, I don't know, a lightsaber spear, right? A lightsaber spear. Okay, and imagine this like, I don't know, orange lightsaber spear spinning in the air, right? The person can visualize something like that, right? They can in their inner realm see an image, but they can't pick that lightsaber spear and start like cutting through the walls of their room, you know. You know, so what I'm trying to say is that we have access to imagination, and it is real in how many philosophers termed it. Immanuel Kant called it noumenon, somebody else called it quela. If my memory serves me right now, it's René Descartes called it raison d'être, I think. But what it is it is the domain where something is happening between your eyes and brain. That means it's like when they inform it. Like, let me tell you, it's what was the term? Phenomenon, what's happening in front of your eyes. Noumenon, what's happening behind. That's how Immanuel Kant was sharing it. Right? And I'm saying that's the scientific method. If it is worshipped like a god, It's as if it's doing the same thing as religion. Instead of though it being a belief system, it's a method. You see? Because I'm telling you, I totally understand the value of rationalism in keeping a grounded history, so we have firm foundations of something real in this world to compare to, right? But I understand at the same time, it's as if it's literally the issue of putting a box on the head of the human being. So it is a dimensional enslavement. Whether it's a belief system you follow, whether it's a method you follow. So I am saying the whole thing is that now the species is realizing, oh my God, we thought we were just addicted to objects. It seems that we have been also addicted to subjects, and subject addiction means an idea is living. It's pretty much means slow living. That means an idea is living in all those moments that your eyes have come to see who you are, not what society thinks is the best clothing your mind should wear. And so I find love is a purity. Love is a surpassing of, it's the fruition of the purpose of why is an object moving? You know, why am I a subject? You know, it's like I see it as just a flame. That when I say shielding the rare, when I say defending the lovers of the realm, somebody, it seems like Bill Nye. I will tell you, if we, you know, the same amount of precision it is required to debunk abstract entityhood, the same amount can be used to debunk emotion. That means I'm telling you, we can even nullify emotions. Right, but the idea is like something has to be shielded, right? I mean, like the future generations are going to be born. It's like, what do we do? You know, and instead of being told, okay, be free, you can do whatever. It's like you can say, okay, these are the problems. You're free, you can do whatever. But if you want, come and solve these, right? So it's a sort of revocation of purpose, because honor does not arise unless the journey has been made. That means it's like when we forget it's a journey, then we don't hold to stable foundations. You know, it's like when, how would I say it? Like, let me see if I can rephrase that. Imagine there's a rare candle and your hand has to shield it. And now, every time we shield something, we preserve the efficient technologies of the realm. I feel that is defending the love of the world, really. Because what are our objectives? Let's say for a second we played action video games, you know, like Call of Duty or something, and we're like, okay, what is our objective in this world as human beings, right? What is our mission? You know, like let's say we ask that, right? We would see it is first to figure out what we are. I'll say it this way: first, it's to continue, but then it's like first to continue until we figure out what we are. Do you know? That means the physical purpose of life, yeah, get to the next day. I would say, but the more immaterialistic considerate view, purpose or mission, is remember. Remember what is here. That means stories can move in many ways. Do you know, just like people's stories can be judged? You know, this is something where sometimes when like a person, I've debated with many people, and I have gotten sometimes offended over how, if my idea had eyes, if an idea, how do I say it? The presence of nature and how it animates in unknown ways And if it has animated in an unknown way and somehow has gone towards something peaceful and efficient, because the norm is to be an animal. That means for me, if you think the world has to be peaceful and then violence is bad, then you can suffer when you see violence. But if you for a second be like, okay, we were animals in the forests, like seriously, we were savages to a point where the ancient Greeks, their vision was like to tame the savageness of man and make gentle the life of this world, you know? So we were savages. So savageness, animalhood, normal. It is the weakest thing. You know, it is the most dishonorable thing. And you know why? Just from my intellectual position, that now there is the mind. Like back in the day, yeah, there was no way for them to perhaps communicate without being in the experience. That means it was like communication and direct experience were same time. But now we can be in a moment before going into another moment and fathom what that moment will be like. Right? So we have access to an additional dimension. And so the wildlife, it's as if a person has to find a way to recycle, to transform the wilderness of an animal, the savageness of the instincts, into power to use for the inner realms. That means I'll give you a hilarious example. It's like the person that gets so angry, and this is an imagined angry person who can't control themselves. This is a random example I'm saying. But imagine this person can't control themselves and they're about to, for a moment they're about to release their anger on the other person, but then they're about to release their anger on themselves because they care for the other person, but then they're about to release the anger on themselves, and suddenly the person, it's as if the right hand is about to attack and the left hand stops the right hand from moving. Do you know? And so that energy which wanted to go out, it was as if that titan that wanted to be released in the angry moment to go out is as if held. Do you know? It's as if like a kitten, you hold the neck of that titan and you pull it back in. You don't let the savageness or the intensity leak into the outer realms, right? And so that person would just sit down. And I'm saying if you're a very handsy angry person, you got to sit on your hands, practice this. This is a healthy practice. Angry people should sit on their hands often. So it's like, what if we could find a way to recycle dualistic suffering into an efficient win-win strategy for self and collective? So I would say love is the backup system of human psychology. It's as if you can, ask any academic, why do you teach, or why do you, or the person, why do you go to work? And the person's like, I want to keep my family alive, man, in this hard, cruel world, and this messed up system. I want to keep my family alive. So the person is, in some sense, has ideals, something, but what it is because we are not robots, but we have no other way of financially surviving other than being robotic. It's hilarious. That means if one was to think if tomorrow everything was automated and all the jobs that robots can do were taken, how many few people will still be employed? That means only things that a robot can't do is what's going to be the value of the future. Anything a robot can do, of course, it has value, but it's as if what's better, robots carrying rocks or human beings? Where if the human being just notices the mind's life, now this word soul, people are like, what does that mean? And believe it or not, it doesn't mean anything. It's like an unknown, it's like the unknown variable, the x in the mathematical equation of reality, the unknown x variable. The mystery in reality, which can change reality instantly. throughout the years that I've been giving these talks, I've looked at the word advanced communicator in so many angles. And I have come to realize that it is really how existence and experience are not only being simultaneous, they are unconditionally being simultaneous. That means I have no choice. When I wake up, existence and consciousness are kind of linked. Existence and experience, conscious experience, and known existence are linked. As if there's nobody in the forest, Friedrich Nietzsche said this, if there's nobody in the forest and a tree falls, did the tree fall? That means life animates to the mind if it is a lesser dimension. That means it's like our bodies are 2D, our minds are 3D, and let's say the soul is 4D, but we don't know because our society is in 3D. This is metaphoric, I'm using these dimensions. So what it is right now I was fathoming, okay, so what are the advanced states of communication? Because for me, when I think about communication, this is something where I don't know, maybe I haven't talked about it in this way now that I'm going to now, but I don't see my moment as a communication. Like there's some people who they think there are, let's say a person, what are the types of possibilities of, okay, let me share a spectrum of different possibilities of what kind of communication can go on this planet, okay? So there can be self-communication, which in modern times we call thinking. But what's hilarious is we treat the thinker as a thought, so how can a thought think? How can a noun be a verb? And we are there. That's like the Rubik's Cube for now, for the modern civilization. So there's an ability to communicate to yourself, self-communication. There's this ability to communicate to other. Now, something that is not yourself, right? And so the first thing we communicate with that is not ourself is our world. And if we were in the forest, we would have this very grounded in us. But because we're living in a Shakespearean play, so there's an ability of self-communication, communicating with another in the same room as you. Then let's say for those who are parallel universe theorists, they will in some sense say, okay, let's say there's an ability to communicate to something else, right? So there are people on this planet who are communicating to themselves, which is just articulation, There are some people who are communicating with others. That's really how we see the word communication for now. And then let's say there's some people who are communicating to the world. That means this was called pantheism back in the day, where it was before religions. What was the content of worship? Nature. The dude's like, yo, there's sunlight on this flower. This flower is God. It would be like that level. Imagine like a sunbeam on a plant and the person's like, okay, there's something special here. Like at a point where they didn't even know what light was, Like, can you blame them? At least, like, you could say superstition is like the superstition of shamans back in the day, The secular society should be like, nice job, guys. You at least tried. You at least tried to explain it. Even though it was fictional, but you tried. So well done for the effort. You know what I mean? But no, the secular society, it's like, how dare you, say something that we don't see. But then we go to magic shows and clap for magicians that we have no clue how they did their tricks. So, it is, I would say, it is becoming, the more we are, the more information is like raising the behavior of the creature, the more we are seeing dimensions to ourselves, so we cannot avoid our multidimensional nature. We are multidimensional, then singular. But if you are conditioned to think you're singular, then multidimensional, any changing event is going to scare you. Because you have forgotten. Energy doesn't die. No one has ever died. No one has ever been technically born. It's just the universe that's been changing. You know, it's like we are part of an artwork of the universe, whether you see it as drawn by the fingers of the laws of nature, or drawn by, you know, the fingers of, I don't know, a personified universal agent. You know, so it's as if so types of communication are very different. So you can communicate to yourself, you can communicate with others, you can communicate with your world. And there can also be moments where I would say you can be communicated to by the unknown. So if you filtered everything through a known and unknown lens, this is pretty much what I do in every moment of my survival in this world. I wonder, okay, what do I know? What do I have access to? And then what don't I have access to? And what I don't know and what I don't have access to, that's where the treasure is, right? So for me, the unknown became a sort of supreme position of where knowledge is going, right? So that means you go and ask the expert a question, and when the expert says, I don't know, everybody in that academic field starts crying. You know? So that means if there is no such thing as an expert, there is just eyes that have seen more dimensions. That's it. And I want to point out, it's as if, like, you know how there's this idea where, I think it was Socrates, he was shouting this, I think, at like a group of nobles or something, you know, and he says, how dare you speak of peace and harmony when you are eating it, when there's a dead animal on your plate. Like Socrates evidently shouted that at some politician back in the day. And so it's as if, like, okay, is the species, by eating animals, indirectly creating a karma where we're like behaving like an alien invading other species? So does that mean it's like in the future we're gonna get invaded and kind of have that outcome? You know? So it's like there's some people who have thought of this idea, you know? And I will tell you, why not see it in the same way, where look at this picture of like Layli and Majnun, where I've shown you here. Do you see those two ducks? Okay, so it's as if animals can eat each other, animals can also love each other, right? And love is where the minds are wild, but I would say it's like there is, I don't know, it's like, how can we disturb nature? Our task is only to remember. You know, there's a very incredible quote by the poet Rumi. He says, your task is not to seek love. Your task is not to search for love. I don't know if it's search or seek. Your task is not to seek love, but to get rid of all the barriers you have made against it. That means sometimes our karmic positioning in the moment, it is really deep, a deep self-communication that at some moment in our lives, like the child was pushed, didn't get to push back, and the people are like, why is this person so pushy? You know, you know, so it could be something like that. You know, so it's like incomplete stories that the brain didn't get to finish writing that story. And so it's like the emotion is left raw, kind of like a broken soul, you know, right before dawn shows up, you know. So I'm saying it's like our behavior is fighting alongside the behavior of all potential creaturehood in the realm. And so it's like a giant symphony where our species and its behavior is playing, is giving off a certain sound. All the other species are giving off a certain sound, and of course Canadian geese definitely give a certain sound. But I'm just saying it's as if I think it's a return to a recognition that we are the most advanced instrument in this orchestra of the evolution of nature. You know, now going multidimensional. Because the moment we say, like, if somebody says, "Who are you?" right, and they're like, "I'm this person right now you're seeing," and the person's like, "Okay, but who?" Let's say they say, "Who were you like 10 years ago?" Do you know? Or how would I say it? Like, I'm trying to point out that behind our eyes, the realm is fiction. In front of our eyes, it's non-fiction. And the only reason it's non-fiction, because we are considering that to be non-fiction. We planted the flag of the language into the ground that way. You know? And so I thought about it like the human being has empathy, right? And if we have empathy, and why do we have empathy? Because it's the self-simulative nature is there. That means if somebody sees somebody like doing a backflip, I'm pretty sure an emotion will arise in them. Can I do a backflip? You know, like the mind, what it sees, it echoes into us, into your inner realm. Like right now, my voice is echoing into your inner realm from my inner realm. Do you get it? As if your ears are the end of this tunnel. Do you know? Where sound is somehow being heard by you, as what I'm trying to say. The multidimensional is the salvation of our species, in the sense that how else are we going to tolerate it? Right now it's good or bad. If it's like when the species it's like, imagine the day where it was suddenly all the world leaders came and said, "We have banned duality," and people are like, "Oh, what does that mean?" And so what it meant is there was no longer good and bad people. There were just types of human beings that were aware where they were, and the human beings who were aware they were not. Like in the sense that it's like a person can be in the outer realms, like someone can speak to you, but if your attention is on like, what are you going to do next week? It's as if it's just their sound is going to go through one ear and leave the other. You know? There was this story, I just remembered it. There's this story of this king was given a gift, and he was given these 3 weird statues. You know, these three kind of like totem-like statues, right? These 3, statues with faces and something, right? So he's given these 3 statues from another kingdom as a gift, and right now, and all the kings like, what kind of gift is this? Right, like what's special about these 3 statues? And in it, there's a letter, "Find the real one." And the person's and the king's looking at these 3 statues, and he's like, okay. And then there's this wise person in the council of the king, and he's like, "May I try something?" And the king's like, "Sure, you know, or I'll kill you." I'm joking. Not all kings are monsters in disguise, you know. So so what the guy said, this guy, he takes a stick, and the king's like, okay, let's see what he's gonna do. And the guy takes a stick and he puts it in the ear of one of the statues, and the stick goes through that statue, right? Goes through that statue from its right ear into its left ear, as if like there's an exact hole. There's a tunnel between the right and left ear, right? Then the guy does it to the second statue. Then there's another tunnel. The third statue, there isn't a tunnel. The third statue, when the pen goes, pen or whatever, stick, what, like whatever the guy could find, like he was using to conduct that experiment, right? So he puts it in the ear of the statue and it stops, right? And he says, this is the real statue. And the king's like, why? You know, and he's like, because it hears and receives. It doesn't just hear from one ear and let it go from the other ear. It's like, why waste your own time? If sound has entered your ear, have the precision to see what it wants. You know? You know, I mean, there's definitely something to live for. And I think that's liberty. I mean, we have to consider, what is the evolution of freedom, right? Everybody wants freedom, but what is it? Have you thought about it? You know, can there first of all be freedom in one dimension? Like, what if we get freedom in one angle, but then we see in another angle there is no freedom? Do you know? Could it be that freedom has to do with something experientially activating? Could truth be an experiential activation? Could it be pulling not the strings of beliefs generated from other minds, but how your eyes have thrown themselves out so far? In the chat section, Naomi says, what made you want to protect the lovers? What did you see? Okay, it's not like I want to build like a bunker. You know, it's not like I want to shield, like, when I say protect the lovers, I'll tell you, first of all, thanks for being so observant, because I did see something that usually my talks, if I want to make them about culture, I just look at society and it's like, there it is. But I'll tell you what it was, right? I saw this couple just very happy. And then I thought, what kind of backup system do we have to happiness? You know? Like, let's say a person attains happiness, but what there can be so, like, think of it war, where in World War I and World War II, it was ridiculous. I don't know the exact number, but it was something like 85 million people died. 85 million people died. How many of those people, first of all, their ancestors had lived so long to get there, but alongside that, how many of those people in the present were engaged in a high energy behavior of the planet? Do you know, there was something there where it's as if, like, you know, even though the decency may seem inconvenient, but it's like the person's like, oh shit, you know, it's like you gotta abide by it, right? So what it is like, first of all, I think awakening, just noticing life is not just language. Love doesn't become blind anymore. It doesn't become just a story. It surpasses that. But I don't know, I mean, sometimes I think about if an alien invasion was to take place, let's say an invisible alien invasion, all they have to do is make human beings care less and less for each other and they win. That's it. You know, so it's like something you would think that it's like the more the world becomes a machine, the less we care about emotions. It's like emotions, it's like I'm being a giant robot right now. Why should I care about emotions? You know? And I don't know, there's something about happiness that it's something about joy. I don't know what it is. Rabindranath Tagore understood this. He said, I slept and dreamt that life was joy. That means he woke up in this world thinking that, all right, the purpose in life is to just be joyful, right? And then he says, I awoke. So what, sorry, let me say it again. He says, I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted and behold, service was joy. So the point is that the defense mechanism for the lovers of the realm is gonna be the service to keep joy alive. Because what better thing have we found in the void? You know. right? So it's, I'm saying, like, think of it this way. Think of it as if right now the species was under an invasion. So we, first thing, we would have to protect our resources, and we would have to protect our most important technologies. That means most immediately all the funds have to go on shielding our most important technologies. Do you know? If there was something like that. You know, literally, if we saw like spaceships coming down from the sky, what would the strategy be? Would it just be, oh my God, run around? No, there has to be something. You know, something can be done always, but it doesn't mean it's the best thing. Sometimes it's as if it's like a Clint Eastwood film. So we would have to defend it's not just this. I mean, I consider love as a pillar of civilization, which is this giant work where I envisioned in my inner realms. This was in 2015 where it started. I saw in my inner realms these giant, like Greek columns, like sequoia size, just glowing into the air endlessly, and every human being being born putting a little bit of something in this giant column. Right? And I saw these as the pillars of civilization, and certain ideals where love was one of them, efficiency was one of them. I remember. There was a bunch of others. And so these were very important, right? One of the pillars I remember was human nature, biology. That means the most important thing, that it's like we have to master of being human, then the human being can do whatever they like. Or go play around with whatever language makes your dreams come true. You know? So if we can make the defending as joyful, like if we can make reception and expression. Do you know what it is? Like, this may seem like a tangent, but I gotta say it because the image is so clear to me. There was this show called Black Clover, this Japanese comic turned into a animation, and in it, everybody had, it was literally like somebody saw like the deck of cards that had 4 suits and made those into kingdoms, you know? And so, in this whole thing, everybody, magic was normal. So the person had made a universe where right now we're like, there's no magic, you know? But in that universe, in that Japanese narrative, what was going on was everybody had magic, and after they had magic, they were in a hierarchy of magic. That means there was a class system for magic. You know, that means some magicians would discriminate against magicians who were even weaker. Do you know what I mean? And so in the story, the idea comes that it's not what kind of magic you have. It's like whatever you have, whatever hand you've been dealt in this realm, it's like how you use the magic and how you combine the magic. Right? So it was as if in this whole magical universe, characters who, when they were alone, they were like, I'm useless. Suddenly, when they combined with others who had different abilities, right? So it became something of value, right? And so I thought, okay, in this modern world, we don't have magic in that sense, and we have cyberspace is a bit like, it's not going to happen maybe, I think, in 120 years, you know? So cyberspace is running late. And so all we have right now is our imagination. So I thought about, we in our inner realms can access magic. In my inner realms right now, I could literally imagine myself in front of a pond and like raising my hand in the air, and all the water in the pond like shaping like my hand, you know, and just staying there in the air. You know, so I can, for example, in my inner realms visualize it, but in the outer realms, that image, that unique image is only left in being communicated. So the magic of modernity is communication. And it's not that it's magic, it's in some sense, magic was an old angle. It was like it's how they tried to reach the shelf, but they couldn't. What it is everything is moving here, right? It's a universal event. It's a movement, right? And we are an intelligent part of this movement. So, intelligent movement, some people called it magic, we're calling it communication. So you can call it whatever. It's just intelligence in motion. It's as if, the moment the person wakes up, it's like the universal director's like, action! And all the elemental actors are there in their ideological roles and their subjective, positions. So what happens if we treat, right now we don't have magic, but let me tell you what we have. We have free will, unknown free will. For now, let's call it unknown because we can't be certain, and this is not me saying this is like neurologists being like, I don't know what we're seeing here, it appears like free will is an illusion. It's like, no, it's not free will is an illusion, it's that language is an illusion. But we have no way of having the concept without language. Probably there has been some sages in the world where somebody asked them, hey man, what's truth? And the person's like, I'm dying to know, man. Tell me, what is this truth? And the sage just starts laughing, and the guy's like, why is this sage laughing at my face when I'm dying to find truth? And the sage says, if you only knew who was asking. If you only knew who was asking the question, you would laugh when you get the answer. The same way Rabindranath Tagore was saying the evolution from joy into service, and then service being a higher dimensional joy, and thus through how you endure through the battles, the moments of your life, honor eventually establishes. Personal character comes from there, and then based on how you redeem yourself as an idea, it depends on how you how comfortable you are with the unknown. I'm telling you, all psychological illness is due to the lack of realization that it is okay for this world, for there to be the unknown. Right? We are doing an colossal attempt trying to even define the world. That means it's as if the human being came up with a theory on the universe, and then suddenly the planets and the soul and the stars were like, oh, look at this human being coming up with theories, The macrocosm laughed at the microcosm, and the microcosm was like, why are the gods laughing? I don't get it, until the microcosm realized it was also one of those gods laughing. The joy of the superior, the joy of the advance is that it's advanced from the beginning. That means it's at least that's one thing, That's one thing that I think it will bless the advanced communicators in the future. The unknown will be their bodyguard. Because nature is alive, I'm telling you, it's an energetic display. So we can even say, like, let's say the planet was alive. This is an abstract idea, but just entertain me for a moment. Let's say the planet was alive, and we are alive, and people are speaking to the planet. Some people are like grabbing dirt in their hands, and they're like, I love you, Earth, and so many people, and then let's say suddenly we start saying, okay, wait a minute, the Earth doesn't speak English. Gaia doesn't speak English, what do we do? And so we realize it's our energetic presence. So it doesn't really matter your philosophy even, your ideology and your belief, it's like how your attention is piloting you as a presence of the moment. And I'm telling you, with this, if we incorporate multidimensionalism, that means the good and bad are not our obsession. That means suddenly we take the hammer away. As if Thor was like, I don't know, breaking tables, and somebody's like, give me that hammer, what are you doing? And Odin's like, okay, let me teach Thor a lesson, and gives that person the ability to take the hammer from Thor. You know, it's like this. It's like if we had right now the only thing lacking in civilization, I would not say if it's a difference between working hard or working smart or surviving in whatever moral system an animal can have. Like so so I think it's more now a time where what we need is if we could like for a second, let's say there was a genius time traveler from the future, and the time traveler came to this moment in time and did something that he time traveled our whole planet into the future, and we suddenly realize our planet is beside the future version of our own planet. Do you know? And imagine the aim was for this genius time traveler to do this was not to just test and see what creating a void in a timeline could be, let's say, potentially. But in the sense that this he wanted to show now what the future potentially could be, so the now would make its own decision there. Do you know? So I'm saying it's as if we're all living for the future. If we could see it, we would know exactly what to do now. But based on what we do right now, the future gets created. So it doesn't matter if you're a time traveler, you can know that any moment you do something different can, let's say, like all the time travel films we've seen, change something, you know. So I'm telling you, this is the secret to time travel. Time travels. The way the concept of time stands to the local eye. Sorry guys, I got two songs playing in the background. This makes total sense. So the idea is we declare love as an advanced state of communication, as a rarity, right? And we should have this thing that lovers get discounts everywhere. It's like, are you guys in love? Yeah, okay, you get 50% off. Oh man. We say it's a state of mind, right? Everything is a state of mind. And let's say the species wanted to create this alphabet or this archive of all the different states of mind that humanity can be, right? So let's say there was somebody who wanted to, like a mad scientist study love. They would be fast, like how many types of love are there? Oh man. It's like, how many types of magic are there? How many types of love are there, you know? And of course, I mean, what I'm saying, it's like, this is the thing about waking up from language. It's like Aristotle says, a sign of an educated mind to entertain an idea without accepting it. That means when somebody, for example, bursts out something, usually criticism comes from someone who couldn't entertain an idea without accepting it, you know. Because language, how language is heard, is the inner responsibility of the inner realms. How language is communicated, that's the person should be responsible for their outer realms too, you know. You know, how many times have we seen, like, this is something where we may not see it as significant because it's recent, but I have seen too many photographs of people in riots where they've put flowers into, like, you know, you know, on the officers' wet batons in like the riot photo. And you know what it is? That means the mind deserves its advancement. Love is an advancement of the mind. That means it's like we can say to rekindle the flame. It is the mystery of where the life force of the individual goes. You see, if you treat life as a journey, it doesn't bother you that much that it changes, and sometimes it changes out of your control, let's say. But I don't know, guys. I mean, the thing is that for me, I'm like, what's important? And when I see it, then I ask, what can we do about it? Because why else do we exist? That means it's like we are a shaped creature. That means it's like we are an object to move objects. We are a subject to move subjects. We are a witness, an unknown witness, to remember that the world, that the unknown, only the unknown is not unknown to itself, but to any pattern of knowledge, the unknown is forever unknown. That means unless the human being can accept the unknown, knowledge is an endless simulation of how your voice turns, or how your eyes turn, how your sight moves. Plus, it's, you know what it is? It's a fire. I think that's the best way to see love. You know, that means if we had like a special, I don't know, goggles, and we had jetpacks in the sky and we were looking at the planet, we can say that it is the movement of souls without interference. So it's mind-boggling how much freedom we need, and then what we do in our freedom is really we ultimately abide by our nature. You know, it's like you see animals in nature, they play, they fight, you know. They preserve, they create, they destroy. These are all dimensions of intelligence. And you know, I was thinking we could even classify ideological systems of how much they care about the future. That means we could literally imagine, make this a giant filter. Okay, it's like whatever belief system, how much is the future of that belief system a hunger game, you know, and how much of it is actually something beyond, you know, the ignorance of, you know, boxed individuals. Ideologically boxed. Because our inability to accept the unknown is really why knowledge has to be truth. So guys, this is the point in the talk where I'm going to go into a quote tunnel and pretty much see what history has to say. If history has ever been in love. So I'm literally going to read quotes right now. Okay. Okay, there we go. Alfred Lord Tennyson. "'Tis better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all." Orson Welles says, "We're born alone, we live alone, we die alone. Only through our love and friendship can we create the illusion for the moment that we're not alone." What an incredible sentence. Mother Teresa, "Let us always meet each other with smile, for the smile is the beginning of love." Okay? So keep smiling, folks. If people are not smiling right now, it's like, get out of here. Eric Fromm says, immature love says, I love you because I need you. Mature love says, I need you because I love you. Oscar Wilde says, to love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance. Henry Van Dyke says, time is too slow for those who wait, too swift for those who fear, too long for those who grieve, too short for those who rejoice. But for those who love, time is eternity. That means it's like love is like an eternal moment, It's like only eternal beings, This song is Victor Hugo says, life is the flower for which love is the honey. Ferdinand Foch says, the most powerful weapon on earth is the human soul on fire. Yeah, I think this is similar to how Dylan Thomas was like, do not go gentle into that good night, rage against the dying of the light. I think that rage is the same human fire. It's when the fascination of the unknown is way more. That means the person's like, whatever view they have on themselves, they're like at some point they're like, how do I know though? And so that's the wonder of the unknown that moves you next. Loretta Young says, she says, love isn't something you find. Love is something that finds you. Leo Buscaglia says, love is always bestowed as a gift, freely, willingly, and without expectation. We don't love to be loved, we love to love. Carl A. Menninger says, love cures people, both the ones who give it and the ones who receive it. Torquato Tasso says, true love cannot be found where it does not exist, nor can it be denied where it does. Peter Ustinov says, love is an act of endless forgiveness, a tender look which becomes a habit. Franklin P. Jones, love doesn't make the world go round, love is what makes the ride worthwhile. Yeah, it's like it's like the most advanced human activity. It's like efficiency plus pleasantness plus I don't know, wherever the vision is really. Anyways, to continue, Francois de la Rochefoucauld says, true love is like ghosts, which everyone talks about and few have seen. I think it's like the epitome of transcendence for the secular mind, to some degree. I feel it's like an individual transcend. It's a way to transcend beyond individualism. Where was I? John Galsworthy says, love has no age, no limit, and no death. Ovid, just some person named Ovid, says, fortune and love favor the brave. Probably ancient Greece or something. David Viscott says, to love and be loved is to feel the sun from both sides. Ingrid Bergman says, a kiss is a lovely trick designed by nature to stop speech when words become superfluous. The Dalai Lama Love and compassion are necessities, not luxuries. Without them, humanity cannot survive. But even if they were luxuries, we'd still want to keep the luxuries. Max Muller, that means if you make the luxury, I mean, actually, how we define luxury is very important here. But Max Muller, anyways, Max Muller says a flower cannot blossom without sunshine, and man cannot live without love. Pierre Corneille, sorry guys, I'm ruining the name. Pierre C says self-love is the source of all our other loves. David Wilkerson says love is not only, oh my god, I moved to scroll down. Love is not only something you feel, it's something you do. Lao Tzu says kindness in words creates confidence. Kindness in thinking creates profoundness. Kindness in giving creates love. Paul Tillich says the first duty of love is to listen. A person named Javon, Javon, says love can sometimes be magic, but magic can sometimes just be an illusion. Luc de Clapier says great thoughts come from the heart. Jules Renard says love is an hourglass, with the heart filling up as the brain empties. Paulo Coelho says one is loved because one is loved. No reason is needed for loving. Eva Gabor says love is a game that two can play and both win. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin says someday after mastering the winds, the waves, the tides, and gravity, we shall harness for God the energies of love, and then for a second time in the history of the world, man will have discovered fire. Wow. We shall harness for God the energies of love, and then for a second time in history of the world, man will have discovered fire. This is that means it's literally, this love is the fire we found in the inner realms. Yeah. Gilbert Parker says love knows no distance, it hath no continent, its eyes are for the stars. Voltaire says love is a canvas furnished by nature and embroidered by imagination. Jean de la Bruyere says the sweetest of all sounds is that of the voice of the woman we love. Jesus Christ, a new command I give you. Love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. Zelda Fitzgerald says nobody has ever measured, not even poets, how much the heart can hold. Incredible. Great quote. Wow. Okay, and last but not least, a quote from Lao Tzu. He says, love is of all Love is of all passions the strongest, for it attacks simultaneously the head, the heart, and the senses. And actually, I'll read one more from Gilbert K. Chesterton. He says, "The way to love anything is to realize that it may be lost." And one last quote, guys. James Thurber says, "Love is what you've been through with somebody." Interesting quote. Oh, and one last quote. Martin Luther King says, "I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear." Great quote. So anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I hope this... I'm going to end the tunnel, quote tunnel here, actually. Let me see, what can I say before I end? So the image I wanted to paint pretty much on this planet, objects are moving as subjects. The greatest thing these subjects can do comes to a sort of unknown union. And so this unknown union journey, it's like two moments of intelligence becoming one moment of intelligence. Or so it would be as if it's like by seeing it as a sort of advanced state of human intelligence, therefore it requires the higher it's valued, the more to be shielded. So what it means is that if people see right now, civilization, I would say, is not at a conscientiousness of like realizing that people are existing to themselves in a certain way, right? Most people think what they see is just that's who the person is. They don't realize every person's psychology is an effort in a world they see, right? So if there are, for example, lovers, and suddenly some interference from the ignorance of the cultural program comes, that requires to be defended, that requires to be shielded. You know, the pleasantness of the realm is a rarity in a world where so many things have been random. Even the Greeks said it started from chaos, the world. So it's like chaos is normal, right? Chaos is everywhere. It's like we are connecting the dots, right? So now we have connected the dots that love is one of the most important connections in the human psychology. So this connection now has to be, I don't know what it is. I don't want to say we should, it's as if freedom, but it's like efficient freedom, simultaneous. That means the person can, it's like there is no boundaries to the expression, but there is oh man, I don't know how to term this. Concentric circle strategy. We make the center be defended by the other. So imagine, like, I don't know, this is kind of abstract, but let's say love was not allowed everywhere. Let's say there was a zone. Okay, so let's say there was a giant circle and this was the center of love, where that means it was like where the most important states of mind were. Then there was a second stage, right? Then there was a third circle, right? And so these three circles are choices of freedom. You know, imagine three realms of possibility in one giant realm. So that means that we can defend love through the cultural program, making it I mean, it's like, what ideology can I connect to a force that moves on its own? Like, I would say these don't have to even be in the outer realms of design. It would just be classifications of levels that human beings care. Imagine we had three stages of human beings. Human beings that were violent, they were the stage 3 human beings, they didn't care. That means the higher up you went up these stages, imagine the more you cared. So a stage 3, let's say, this is just a model, but let's say a stage 3 human being only sees their own inner realm. That means they only see themselves. A stage 2 human being sees themselves and sees others similar to self. A stage 1 human being is a human being that sees their self, they care about themselves, they care about other senses of self, their species, and the world. That means three dimensions are being satisfied. In stage 2, only 2 dimensions. In stage 1, 1 dimension. Sorry, not in stage 1. I said it the other way. That means stage 3, the person sees themselves. Stage 2, the person sees themselves and they see others. Stage 3, the person sees themselves, others, and the world. And he's now noticing the relationships between these. And I don't know, guys, this is an abstract, of course. The whole thing is, it's not like love is not even something you can defend. It just, if it's something that arises, then it's just kind of like, maybe it's something that in the defense mechanism is just planted, or just create more possibilities for it, or realizing it's like that's the greatest game a savage animal could find on a rock in the middle of nowhere, right? Because right now my behavior, I'm saying, like, if I was born like a long time ago, it would be just like there would be no significance for the mind's evolution. Now, what is even more astonishing is that in mysticism, the kind of love they saw went to such a singular point where the person suddenly, imagine like being in a culture where everybody is treating everybody as God. Everybody is God. Imagine you're in a culture, and in that cultural program, everybody is being God right now. Everybody's movements and all of this is all God, right? And let's say the person equates God equals love, right? So the person would then see an all-permeating love through everything, you know? So I'm saying the concept of love, it's as if it can be on a singular view even, right? And is it even possible to say nihilists love nothing? You know, like is that an accurate statement or not? You know. It's just to create a backup system for what got all of us here. That's what I'm saying. I think it's a very reasonable suggestion. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I'll end it here. Namaste.